Hi guys, today I want to talk to you about how to draw skin tones with Prismacolor pencil, and I'll be showing you by drawing this lady. In this video we'll be focusing on how to build up the skin tones, or if you would like to draw along with me in real time, I have the full tutorial available on my Patreon. I've popped a link in the description. Alright, let's begin. So let's start off by slowly going through what I'm doing on her right hand cheek. So whichever tone of skin I'm drawing, I tend to always start with the same colour. I like to start with the French grey, and I'm going to use this to start marking in all the shadows and generally start marking out what needs to go where. So I'm using the 70% French grey here because she does have a pretty dark shadow on the right hand side of her face. So I'm marking out the deep shadow on the right hand side and also putting some light shading to the right of her mouth because there is a little bit of a shadow there. As far as how I'm putting the pencil on the paper, I'm pressing very lightly with a sharp pencil and I'm working in little circular motions. This is because I want the pencil to go down on the paper as smoothly as possible so that it creates a nice smooth skin. Once I got these first few shadows marked out, I basically want to look at my reference photo, compare it to my drawing, and also compare it to my colour swatches. If you don't know what swatches are, it's where you shade out all of your colours onto a sheet of paper. This means that you're able to see what your colour actually looks like, rather than relying on looking at the lead. It'll make your life 10 times easier when picking colours. So I'm going to look at my colour swatches and basically see which colour's missing. So first off, I'm going to use this purple. I can see a lot of purple around the right hand side here and also by her nose. So that's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to lightly shade in a very similar way to how I did with the French grey. Now that I've got that down, I'm going to check again and once again see which colour I think is missing. Now her cheek is very pink and I don't have any pink or red in here at the moment. So I'm going to use this bright pink now and shade over a lot of the areas that I did with the purple. Now although with skin tones you will find that you end up using a lot of similar colours, I don't think that there's an exact recipe or perfect colours that you can use for it. I find it easiest to look at what you're drawing and look at what you can actually see in those skin tones. And there is a huge variety of colours that you'll find in and amongst there. So let's keep working through and keep checking. So next I want to add a bit more of a shadow to that right hand side. So I'm going to use this kind of medium brown and shade over a lot of the areas that I did with the French grey. I'm still working very lightly and in these circular motions. At this point of drawing skin, it's really a case of trying to build up the background colours and then later we'll smooth it all out. So adding that brown has taken away from a lot of the pink, so I want to add some more pink back in. And then even after I've done that, I'd say that her cheek is really very rosy, so I want to make it even brighter, even redder. So I'm going to use quite a bright red here, but I'm only using that on her cheek. So now from here, the shadow on the right hand side of her face is still not dark enough. And actually I want to make it more of a reddy brown. So I'm going to use this colour and I'm mostly using it down that right hand side of her cheek. It is so dark there because of the shadow created from her hair. Now you'll find as you go on and add in more colours, it does get easier to see which other colours you need to add. It's hardest at the beginning, which is why I like to start with that French grey because it helps to just put something down. But by the time that we get to this stage, it is getting much more obvious what we need to add in. So let's have a bit of a look under her eye now. At the moment, I just have blank paper under here. So on the reference, you'll see that there is a strip of grey here. You will frequently find this under the eyes. It's where the skin's a bit thinner, so you're able to see through it a bit more and it leads to these sort of cooler tones. So I'm going to start with this light cool grey and fill in this whole little strip. Then I'm going to take this slightly darker grey and fill in around the edge. You can see it's a little bit darker around there. But once I've done that, I am going to go back to the purple. You can see some little hints of purple up here. Alright, let's really darken down the shadow on the right hand side. I'm going to use this brown to do this, which is my darkest brown in my set. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how this is looking now. So I want to start thinking about blending these colours together. But I'm not only going to use the one colour to do this, I'm going to use a few different colours. So I'm going to start off with this light peach colour. This is almost a pinky kind of colour, so I want to use this on the pinker areas of her skin. And what I'm doing here is pressing a bit firmer. I'm not pressing full force because I do want to be able to add more layers on, but I'm pressing quite firmly and still working in these little circular motions. And you can see I'm going on the right hand side of the cheek. There's a kind of little strip that goes up and meets up to her nose. And also I'm going down a little bit towards where her mouth will be. As I get towards the edges of these sections, I'm lightening up a bit with the pencil. I don't want to have a really abrupt end to it. Next, I want to blend the very light areas, the few little areas of highlight. Now, there isn't a huge amount of highlight on this right hand cheek. There is a little bit to the right hand side of the nose. So I'm going to use the white pencil for this, and I'm going to work in a very similar way to the light peach. So I'm pressing quite firmly again, but still working in these little circular motions. And you can see that I'm left with this really nice bright area. Before I carry on with the blending, I am just going to add a little bit more of this bright pink to her cheek because I still think it needs to be brighter. And then I'm going to move on and do some blending with this beige. So the beige is a little bit more yellowy, but it does make it perfect for blending. So I am going to go over some of the light peach areas just to tone down the pink a tiny bit higher up on the cheek. And then I'm also going to blend towards the bottom of her face. So down by her jaw, it's a lot more yellowy tones rather than the pinky tones that you can see on her cheek. Okay, so the last thing to do on this cheek is add in a bit more red and one more time brighten up that cheek. So let's go through the left hand cheek now, but do it a little bit faster. So let's once again start with the French grey, and I want to mark out all of these shadows. So I'm looking at her cheekbone, I'm going around her jaw. She's also got quite a prominent shadow underneath her bottom lip. I'm working in the little circular motions and pressing very lightly. From there, I want to make the shadowed areas a little bit redder. So I'm going to use this reddy brown kind of colour and go over pretty much the same areas. Let's take this mid to light brown again and fade out from those areas and start fading these darker shadows into the slightly lighter and more mid-tone middle areas. Then I can start adding in some purple and some pink. So I'm taking a close look at my reference to see where those purple and bluey tones sit on this left hand cheek. I'm going to add a bit of this pink on her cheek just to brighten that up a bit. I'm going to fill in that grey area under her eye on this side as well. And then I can start adding in some of the peaches and brightening up this side. So I'm going to start with the peach and fill it in on the left hand side where it's a little bit darker. And then I can move on to the light peach and add a light covering on the area that will be the highlight. So I'm still constantly looking at my reference and looking at my swatches and working out which colours I think are missing. So I'm going to deepen down the shadows further with this dark brown, and then I can also brighten up the cheek with this bright red, very similar to what I did on the other side. I'm going to add a little bit more French grey and then I can think about blending this all together. So I'm going to start off this time with the beige and blend some of the more yellowy tones. And then after that, I'm able to move on to the light peach and blend out some of the more pinky tones. So for example, at the bottom of her cheek here. Remember, while you're blending, you want to press firmly but not full force because you do want to be able to build up other colours on top of this. Also remember, you don't want an abrupt end at the edge of any of these sections you're blending, so do ease up on the pressure as you get towards the edges. So from here, I'm going to use a lot of the same colours that I have been using up until this point and just keep checking that reference and seeing which colours are missing. You'll find that with a bit of practice, this becomes quite an easy way to draw skin tones. So the last thing that I'm going to do on this cheek is blend out the highlights. And I'm once again going to use the white pencil to do this. So this area isn't going to become stark white because I did put a little light covering of the light peach on here. And I once again want to blend quite firmly on the middle of the cheek and then fade it out towards the edge. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a like, and remember, if you want to watch the full real-time footage of this portrait, it is available on my Patreon, as well as loads of other tutorials as well. Happy drawing, guys. I'll see you in the next one.